Okay, well, we'll get started in just a few moments, and it's a little before 1, and I'm hoping more people will join us. Can everyone hear the audio okay? Audio is good, according to Kathy Rhodes and Matthew.
Does anybody want to try their microphone? Hi, Maria.
Hola, Maria.
Coordinated with your sweater. That goes so well.
I don't have any file cabinets. ¿Cómo está? I'm just waiting for the clock to roll around to 1 so that we can officially begin. And when you're sitting here on camera waiting, it takes a very long time. So,
Hi, Dan.
hello, Dan.
All right, 1 o'clock.
Okay, it is now 1 o'clock, officially time to begin. And as you know, we're going to talk about creating a textless course. And that title is a bit of a misnomer because we are going to be dealing with text, but we're dealing with a paperless course. I think that might be a more accurate term, or a digital course. And Robert and I talked about why faculty would like to take the digital route. And one reason, of course, is getting students engaged and trying to minimize expenses for students. And I'm holding up the Comp 2 textbook, which probably weighs 2 or 3 pounds and comes with a very high price tag. And students will not, in the course of 15 or 16 weeks, get to really read that much of the selections. Just the sheer size of it does not make it something that is attractive and appealing to pick up. And then we do have to think if our students are taking 12 to 15 credit hours, they're going to have an equally expensive textbook for each of those courses, and money is tight for everyone. So I think with digital resources, we can make things more appealing to students. They can access the content wherever they happen to be. They can also free up some of their money, and it makes it easier for us in some respects because we can tailor our individual courses to our interest or to what's happening currently. And if you watched Darren's webinar last week, he described several faculty members' attempts to keep content current and engage the students with that. So each semester can be new and different. And I teach comp, and so my examples are all literature based. but I also want to show some of the databases that I've used in the past, and Robert will be showing those in a little more detail. That basically it can be a learning process for us too, a way to get us engaged with our discipline because we have to go out and use the databases and the free websites ourselves and do searches. And I think that will ultimately make us connect better with our students. So, on the screen here, which I hope I'm sharing it accurately, is my current Comp 2 course, the contents page. And I want to show you just what a link, a quick link that I have created using the LitFinder database, which is available in our library, to get to a short story called A&P, a very famous short story by John Updike, that is not readily available online legally. I think you can find PDFs of it, but it is copyright protected. But I have set it up using the database and the EasyProxy link that Robert will discuss more in a few minutes, so that my students, if they are signed into Momentum and into the course, they automatically have access to it. And they can save a copy. They could even download an MP3. And of course, we all know that even if we have gone digital, our students may well want to print a copy, and that's fine. They have that option. Now, I did want to show you just how easy it is to set that up. I've created a module, and this is actually something that's hidden right now from my students because it's already in the course under the short story module. But basically, you would choose Quick Link when you're going to create the topic, and I know most of you are very familiar with how D2L works. Create the topic, and then you have the option of adding a quick link. What you would do is, to go back to that for just a moment, or actually, let me just show you the LitFinder database. This is what the interface looks like. You have the options of keywords, person, buyer, about, name of work. And so I'm going to choose person, buyer, about. And you can tell with Updike, I end up with a good collection of materials to choose from. And I want to limit to full text. That will reduce it considerably. And here I see A&P. So I can click there, full text. And I'm trying to also keep an eye on the chat box, so if anyone does have a question. But I've got the text pulled up. Now, I want to make it available to my students. First thing is to do bookmark, and this will give you a persistent URL that will not change unless somehow, for whatever reason, the Gale company loses licensing for a particular work. It does not happen very often, but sometimes you'll notice from one semester to the next, you'll have a different selection of options. But I would just copy that. And then to go back to the managed content area, in fact, I'll just walk you through. I should have done this instead of just showing you one. But here's Quick Link. And entitle it. Here in the URL, just like any other, I would paste my link. However, I'm going to need a proxy prefix, and that looks like the one here. And Robert will make this available to you, of course. Thank you, Dave. I'm sure you have a very nice tie on yourself. Uh, that as long as you append or prepend this easy proxy to the persistent URL from the database, your students will be able to open that link and see the full text. Now, also, as great as LitFinder is, and I'll return to that in just a second, you'll also notice I have some PDFs here. I gave my students Ethan Frome for the novel and 2 complete collections of Robert Frost's poetry. Those are works that are in the public domain, and I obtained them through Project Gutenberg. And I hope, if you're not familiar with Project Gutenberg, you will go explore. I'm going to show you that in a second. We did discuss copyright issues because in the past, I think the temptation has been, and I know that I too have violated fair use, but the temptation is if it's on the internet, it's up for grabs. But a lot of times, some universities, some colleges have done this. A professor will have created a PDF, Xeroxed the text, created a PDF, and uploaded it to a website, a university or college website. Blogs are notorious for that, to have links that are not actually conforming to copyright standard. Project Gutenberg, everything is in the public domain, or it actually is Creative Commons and can be freely shared. So that you'll see that I do have some text that I've pulled in that might not be available in LitFinder. Now, I did mention that with creating a course that sometimes you do have to do some research yourself. You do have to go out and do the searches yourself. A lot of times we're not familiar with what all is out there, or maybe we're tired of teaching the same thing, and you might want to just go exploring. The nice thing about LitFinder, if I wanted a novel, but I wasn't sure what novel, I can down here in type of work just select novel, leave everything else blank, and do a search. Now, I didn't limit it to full text, but when I do, you can see you have 746 options. So if I were to want to teach Upton Sinclair's The Jungle and turn all my students vegan, because it's about the meatpacking industry in early years of the 20th century, I could pull it in with very little effort. I can also look at, in the left column, if I wanted to deal with the subject of murder, I could. Suffering. Paranoia. Okay, let's take a look at paranoia and see what we get. Okay, I'm actually given a chapter by chapter selection from Crime and Punishment. I don't think anyone is going to, force Crime and Punishment in its entirety on a freshman class. But if you wanted to, internationalize the curriculum and pull in a classic Russian novel, you would have that option. You could give a small selection. And that is one of the really great things about LitFinder is its flexibility. And you have a broad range of work from something that's fairly current. For instance, here, Vlado Zabot from 2009, a selection from a work called Succubus, going all the way through classics. I did want to show you Project Gutenberg, which I can't say enough good things about. Project Gutenberg is a volunteer organization. Volunteers, and you too can volunteer as a proofreader. Works that are in public domain are transcribed by volunteers into digital format. And when you first go to Project Gutenberg, here is what the site looks like. You can see some of the latest books that have been uploaded. But if you just do in this search box, you can search by author, and I'm just doing Charles Dickens. And you will see, oddly enough, I'm not sure what happened with that link. Let me try it again. The glories of live theater, right? I should have stayed where I was because I actually had Dickens pulled up. Okay, here we go. Maybe it's because I had it in there already, but type in an author's name. This is what you come up with. You can see that A Tale of Two Cities, Great Expectations, works that are in public domain, even classics, and are available oftentimes cheap paperback editions. Our students will have to obtain a copy. If we order it through the bookstore, then there's that expense, or if we send them out to used bookstores, they may pay a variety of costs and end up with several different editions. This is a way for both free and easy access, but it's also a way to ensure consistency. So let's say I wanted to give my students Oliver Twist. These are the options. Now, a lot of these, to be perfectly honest, I'm not even sure what the formats are. I don't know a lot about Plucker. I know I've had difficulty sometimes with EPUB finding some compatible reader, even though it's touted as the standard. If you have a Kindle, you can download and transfer to your Kindle device, download to your computer, transfer to the Kindle device. For our purposes today, integrating this material into the class, I would select HTML. You can read it on screen. But if you do the HTML version and then do Control A to highlight everything, Control C, and then here we go. I just opened Word. I'm going to now do Control V, and you'll see that it has been copied in its entirety. You can edit from this because you'll see that this screen has all of the information about the use and licensing agreement. And if you scroll back up to the top, you see the posting date. You can edit all that out. But the easy thing to do then is to simply save as and select PDF. Then your students, no matter what programs they have loaded on their computer, have access to that. And I found it really makes it great for me in terms of, I forget that we're using Chrome, sorry. It makes it great for me in terms of being able to teach every semester and have it be a little bit different. If we're also worried with issues such as plagiarism and students recycling papers, it will prevent that because, again, um, if you had students in the spring semester and you taught Tale of Two Cities and you changed it up to Crime and Punishment in the fall, it's a little harder for them to borrow someone else's work and pass it off. Now, that is pretty much my perspective as an instructor. And I'm going to now swap seats and let Robert do more of the talking so that he can supply you with a lot of the back end in terms of working with the library's resources.
Absolutely. Great. Well, hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. My pleasure to be working with Mike on the Textless initiative. Mike is a great presenter for this session because Mike's been doing Textless in his Comp 1 and Comp 2 class for really some time now. This is probably is this your third year into it?
At least.
And I recognize that a lot of the folks who are with us today aren't teaching in the either literature or in the composition area. And so I want you to think about, what are the major challenges that you have with your students, and how might you be able to apply and benefit from some of Mike's tools and experience in your own class. To me and my team, I'm really here as your representative from the library team. What we see in the Textless offering is a way to customize a course without having to be entirely tied to the text. We know that sometimes the textbook is a lifesaver and is a requirement for teaching. It's your best friend. So we're not advocating that everybody go throw away the textbook and invent something from scratch. But some of you may want to. You may have been looking for an alternative. And when Mike and I started talking about the needs of his course, one of the frustrations that I think he mentioned early on in the webinar, I just want to underscore, is that a lot of times in the classes that we teach, the textbook ages much more quickly than we'd like. In literature, it means that this very, very heavy, dense textbook has readings that may or may not be of interest to our students, may not kind of hit them in the way that we want to. The readings may go stale, and it's very frustrating because the textbooks don't often change quickly enough to keep up with our culture and the things that we want to talk about. And so when Mike talks about being in control of his class, I think that's one of the things that I've seen in his work with his students is that he's able to kind of build an entire course around a theme that keeps his students engaged, and quite honestly, I think keeps him engaged in learning new things and trying out new material. For everybody, though, I think you can think about this as a way to either teach your concepts from class from a new perspective, or to supplement what you're doing with the textbook to update the material. So my offer in the last part of this webinar is really just to make the library available to you as a resource for finding materials that can either be used as your main teaching material, or that you could use to supplement and bring sort of just a fresh, maybe a more current real world window on whatever discipline you're teaching. And so that's kind of what I want to talk a little bit about. And I guess the main thing I'd say, though, is that my team and I are ready to work with you. Mike's kind of given a good overview of how he approaches this, and he uses LitFinder a lot because it's the right tool for his class. My suspicion is that Dan and Dave and Johnny, you guys won't be reaching for LitFinder for your class as much. But some of the concepts that he's talking about are exactly right. You find the tool, you get into it, and when you find the article that's right, or the book or the resource, whatever it is, there's a way to link to it from Momentum so that your students don't have to do lots of searching. You don't have to do a lot of directional stuff where you tell your students, okay, guys, I want to use some library material, so I want you to go to the library homepage, and then I want you to go to Find, and I want you to go to Databases, and then click here, and then click there. And, the more instruction we have to give our students on finding the reading, the less likely it is they're going to discover that reading and actually do that reading. So we want to eliminate those barriers. So the linking is a really important concept because what it does is it allows you to connect directly from your class directly to the specific item that you want to share with them. So the librarians can help you with the technical side of that. We're going to talk about that here. And I think even more importantly, can help you get acquainted with which tools that we have that might be of best interest to your goals. So when you talk to the library, we're going to talk to you about what is it you're trying to accomplish in your class, and then maybe recommend a few tools that can help you out. In general, though, I think everybody might be interested in supplementing your course with maybe current news items, things that are in the news right now. I know business courses do this. I know Kathy does this a lot in her class. And I know that Dave has a lot of conversations with students about things that are happening right now in the business world. One way that you can accomplish that is to go to a database like General OneFile. And so I can go to the library and I go to databases by subject, for example, and the multi-subject databases. Here's a whole list of just kind of general use databases. There's one called General OneFile. And so you can get in and you can do a search in General OneFile, or you can just look at the popular searches. And of course, these are some things that are in the news right now today. So these are things that students are actually searching on. And so it's a good indication of what people are thinking about. And if you listen to the news at all in the past month or so, Pope Francis is the topic. So with one click, you can get to a list of articles that are on topic with that are as recent as today. So you can see articles from the National Review, India Today, Entertainment Close-Up, so on and so forth. And what I'm suggesting to you is that this might be a way for you to discover news items or magazine articles that are very timely and relevant. It could even be based on something that you heard on the news on the way into work. So this is a way to really bring in current interest stuff. So just by way of example, we have an article of Francis for Our Time, and it is a full text article. So what we can do here is actually go to the article itself. You would read it and decide if this is something that you want your students to use, then you could link to this directly from your course, either as required reading or as a supplementary reading. The trick, though, is that this is actually inside a library database, which the library has purchased and made available for students to use. Typically, our students come to these databases by searching. And so whenever we're trying to link them to a specific article, it's important to give them the right address or the right URL. And so a lot of times when you're on the web and you do a search and you find something you like, the instinct is to go up to this top and grab it and then just do a quick capture and then paste it in. And I need to say that won't work in the library databases. This very long, very convoluted URL is a temporary address based on the search that we just did. And so as Mike was showing in the database, every one of our databases has what's called a persistent URL. And the persistent URL is a permanent address. It doesn't change, unlike the addresses that are on the open web. This address does not change, but you have to know where to go to find it. When you find an article that's of interest to you, you can click in this database. They call it bookmark this document. And when you open that, you see this little URL. It says copy the bookmark. So you copy it, and then you can go over to your content page, and you would paste that in. As Mike indicated, though, there's another piece that you put in. It's what we call the proxy URL prefix. And the reason we do that is when your students try to access library resources from off campus, they will get a login screen to verify that they're allowed to be there. And so when your students are accessing from off campus, the URL that you got from the database won't know if they're allowed to be there or not. So we have to direct them through a proxy link. And so you get to watch me type. This is very exciting for everybody, I know. This is not my keyboard, right? But there's this one magic piece of code here that you need to know. And this is it. And then behind that, you just paste in the URL. I have now created a URL that will work both on campus and off campus. And now that I've done that, when the students click this from on campus or from their home computer, they won't have to log in. They won't have to do anything else because you have done the work for them and given them the authentication to view this URL. So I'm going to stop there for just a second.
Just let me interject. I know that prefix, the EasyProxy prefix, looked very complicated and kind of cumbersome to remember. Robert knows it by heart. what I do is, as I'm accumulating text, I make sure that I'm copying into a document just on my desktop all of the persistent URLs, and I also have a copy of the EZ-proxy prefix. When I go in then to D2L to Momentum to create that content, that quick link, I just make sure I grab that first and copy it, and then go back and grab the actual persistent URL. So, you don't really have to remember it. You can just have it available somewhere and then always reach for it when needed.
And this is where I say again, my whole intent today is to introduce you to the idea that this is possible. When you explore the library resources and you find something that you'd want to share with your students, just knowing that there's a way to get that link available in Momentum so that your students can click and read the specific article that you want them to read without having to do any additional login. That's what you need to remember. My team is available to you to help figure out how to set that up. CTAT knows how to do this as well, so I know anybody in CTAT would be willing to help you with this. We also have a helpful guide out there, and I'll send the URL out. But it's a web page that we've created called Beyond the Book, and there is a page here that has information about the persistent URL and how that works for each of our databases. But here's the little piece of code that we're talking about, and it has step-by-step instructions. So there's help out there on the web for what sounds like a really complicated process. And I know specifically that Molly Stover would love to talk to you about this and help you the first time or two. Like anything else, the first time or two is a mystery. And then once you've done it a time or two, you get a workflow that works for you. And then the rest of it is just finding great stuff that you can share with your students. So I want to stop there for a second and see, does this feel useful to anybody? What do you guys think?
And let us know if you'd like us to give you a microphone. If you have a headset, we can do that if you'd rather not type in the chat box. Please don't everyone speak at once.
Well, the main thing I need you to know is that when you're ready to do this, the library is here to do this with you and help you figure it out, and to get you connected with the research guide that's got the information on this. So don't worry about the code, and don't worry about the logistics of building those URLs. Your job is to think about what it is that your students need to learn and explore the library to find the resources that are out there. I showed General OneFile as an example of a resource that can connect you with current topics. Dave, Kathy, we have business resources. We've got real-time news articles from trade publications. I mean, we've got lots and lots of stuff. For those of you in the humanities or in the social sciences, another great resource for Textless is the JSTOR database. JSTOR, if one of the struggles that you have in your discipline, Darren in psychology, one of the struggles is trying to make sure that your students are exposed to the scholarly literature of the field, so that they can see how professional psychologists think about a particular topic or how they talk to each other. And JSTOR is a place that we go for that because it has a lot of the great academic scholarly literature. So JSTOR has a way that you can link to specific articles. And then beyond that even, we can help you find specific journals. If there's a journal that you want your students to know about, we can link to the journal. We can link at just about any level that you'd like to link. And also don't forget the importance of video, because in addition to a lot of the text resources that we have in the library, we are also growing by leaps and bounds our streaming video. And so when you go to databases by subject and you click on video, you'll see a number of video databases there. Films on Demand has been a great resource for us in terms of Textless course and for supplementing online courses. And I would, for the crowd today, I would say that, browse and look, but we have an entire category here on business and econ. And you can search for a title, or you can actually go in and just kind of browse around. And, if you wanted to do something on the glass ceiling, for example, you could talk about this video here, and there's a way to link specifically to this video. So again, the whole thing here is about how to supplement or replace the content that you've been using as the textbook to make your course material more timely, relevant, and engaging. You've got a team of people who are here to help you. Great. So yeah, Dan's been using Films on Demand. He's been using it quite a bit, and thanks for that comment, Dan. Um, Anything you'd like to suggest? Have you had any troubles with Films on Demand or anything specific you found in working with it? And while Dan's typing, we've got a message coming up here, but um, there are problems that encounter like anything. There's always something that can go wrong. Oh, good. Dan's chat you all can read, but no problems, which is great. Um, Most often that is the case. There are times when things go wrong, and I would like to say that my team is also available to help you troubleshoot those problems. When you go back to this guide, which I'll email about, there is a linking trouble tab and there is a form for you to report problems if you're having link problems or if your students are having link problems. One of the things that we don't want to have happen is, we know that when you take on the commitment to use the library resources as the basis for your class, that stuff needs to work or you won't use it and your students won't be able to learn. And so this is a tool that you can actually share directly with your students and we don't want you to end up having to be a technology guru to solve every issue that might come up. There are lots of issues that are potentially out there. And Molly Stover is quickly becoming the resident expert on browser cookie settings and different kinds of local browser settings, the differences between Internet Explorer and Firefox that students might see on their home computers. This is a report form that you or your students could use to bring the library into the conversation and make sure that things are working well. So we're not going to throw you to the wolves. We'll be a partner with you. Um, yeah, absolutely. Dan's asking a question about content that's out there on the open web, video content from CBS News, from other sites, 60 Minutes. I would throw YouTube in that category. Um, my rule is always it's if it's on the web and you link to it, you're not violating copyright. Um, a reputable site like CBS, they've produced the content and made it available, then there's absolutely no reason why you wouldn't want to link to that. We would encourage you to link to it if it's the most useful source. What you can't do though is capture that content for yourself to do say like do what they call a screen scrape and lock that up because you're afraid that CBS might take it down sometime. That would be a violation of copyright. That'd be a change of format. So you can always link to material that's out there, but do be aware, as Nikki mentioned, I think last week in Darren's webinar, that anytime you link on the open web, you do run the risk of if the video was found to be in violation of the publisher, then it could disappear and it could disappear overnight. So if it's required viewing, I always want to make sure I'm going to a site that I trust. CBS News, absolutely solid. That stuff's going to be permanent, no issues at all.
And I think most of us, um, or all of us more than likely, we follow along with our students throughout the course so that if we have a video coming up next week that perchance has disappeared, we spot it probably even before our students do, and can always find something to take its place. And while the library is obviously a wealth of resources, as Dan was saying, we have other media out there, and in my case, sometimes I will come across a really interesting article in the New Yorker that might be available to the public, or an interesting short story I want to incorporate into a lit course. And I can simply go in and create a quick link to that particular page. Now, next semester, I can't be assured that it won't have disappeared from their archive or have been locked up for subscribers only. But right now, you know, it's there. It's readily accessible. It's just pointing our students in that direction. And if we're pointing them toward a specific website or even a specific database, because I always try to pull up databases in class and show them how they can use them for their research, we're sparking their curiosity, and maybe they'll go exploring on their own and find something else, not just something we've embedded in the course. But
Yeah, absolutely. And I would never tell you that you ought to use the library resources just because. Your goal is to find the right resource for your class, find the material that teaches what you need to teach. There's lots of This is a really exciting time to be teaching because there's so much available on the web, and there's so much material that's being published in an open format. And so even if it's not library resource, a lot of the work that I think goes into tackling this type of teaching gets around the idea of curating the content that you want to use. And so the conversation really ought to be about what is it that I want my students to learn, and how can I get them the best resources to learn that. And you've got a good team around you from the library, from CTAT, and Mike's experience with the Textless from his work in the comp class. Love to see other models developing. And like I say, I just want to make sure that you guys know that you've got a great team from all of us who are ready to listen to what you're trying to accomplish and give you the tools to do it. So well, we're at about 40 minutes now. So
we've actually gone over a little.
yeah, are there any other questions or thoughts that you guys want to kind of clear up or? Oh, absolutely. I should say, Kathy's been a big advocate of bringing, it's particularly case studies into her business management course, and it's just a great a testament to what you can do when you're open to the possibility and creative to ways that you can bring new information and to keep your students aware that the stuff they're learning isn't captured inside a textbook. It happens every day. It's the world we live in.
All right. Well, if there are no more questions, thank you all for tuning in, and we'll be happy to work with you individually. Um, and
And I should say also with the Manly instructional money is coming up, and there's some opportunities to look for funding to do a course build. So if you're thinking about doing an overhaul of your course, something more ambitious than bringing in a few resources, right now is a great time to talk about projects because summer's going to be here soon. And I know in the past, Manly money's been available to folks who are interested in Textless and other styles of content presentation. So, well, with that, we'll let you go. And thanks so much for joining us today. And we'll see you again next week for the Learning Center webinar on promoting group study. So, thanks a bunch, guys.
all right, thank you.